Working with buyers can be complicated because they lose motivation and maybe they don't have the budget to support the type of house that they really want. And you find yourself driving all over town, showing property, showing property, showing property. And at the end of the day, you're like, what the heck? There's just no forward movement. Today, we're going to talk about how do you identify and promote and get excited about your buyer's one-of-a-kind. The first thing that you want to establish is some basic ground rules when it comes time to actually showing property to your buyer. And that is, I want you to sit and have a brief conversation with the person with whom you're going to be showing property. Mr. or Mrs. Smith, before we go looking at some properties, here are some basic things that I want to keep you kind of aware of and kind of how this process works. Okay, that's a simple introduction statement. Now you start laying out really what your rules are, because you don't want to be chasing the dragon. Oh, there's another property, another property. Oh, there's one, there's one. Oh, what about that one? And so what you want to do is first off say, now over the last several days, what I've been able to do is do a complete survey of all of the homes that are available on the market at this time and that are available around your time frame. I'm trying to quantify the fact that inventory is based on when you're going to take action. Inventory is based on when you need your house. Why do I do this? Because everybody knows there's always another house if you wait. If you wait. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's another house if we wait. Yes, of course, there's another house, but it's not going to accommodate the time frame of your buyer. If you've done good qualifying up to this point, you should understand their time frame. You should have a pretty rigid time frame, and you're going to reduce that whole mission creep of, well, maybe I'll wait, maybe there's going to be another house. Rule number one, I've done a complete survey of all the homes that are available within your time frame and your budget. Time frame and budget. Number two, I'm going to make a statement something like this. So today I'm going to show you 3 properties, right? So I don't like to ever show more than 4 properties in a day because it can get very confusing and it gets muddled. So what I want to do is make the statement. Today we're going to take a look at 3 properties, and after each property, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a simple question. Is this the one? Is this the one that you want? Would you like to write an offer on this property? Is this your one of a kind? Now, is this your one of a kind does something and just narrows the scope of that question really, really tight. Because when I say, well, would you like to write an offer? Yeah, sure. We can write an offer here and there, write an offer everywhere. Writing an offer isn't the same as taking an emotional ownership or an emotional interest in the property. I ask the question, is this property exciting enough for you to make it your one of a kind? Based on your time frame and your budget, this is everything that's available. And we're going to show you 3 properties today. But I'd like you to make a decision after each time we take a look at a property. Okay? I need a decision each time we take a look at a property. And here's the decision that you're kind of fishing for. It's yes, absolutely, I want the house. No, I absolutely do not want the house. Or it's a maybe. I might consider this property if we don't find something else that's maybe a little bit more interesting or a little bit more exciting. It's absolutely off the table. It's absolutely a yes, I want to buy it today. Or I'm not really sure. I would absolutely consider it, depending on what else is, what else we can see. The third thing I very much recommend before you put somebody in your car or you give them a map and you start chasing them all over the suburbs is I want you to go ahead and explain some of the paperwork that they're going to have to be signing when it comes time to actually write an offer. I don't want you to just throw this paperwork on them blind. What I want you to do is hand them a sample. When you sign agency and you've made a declaration that I'm going to help you, I am your agent, you're signing agency, and you explain all of the information around what the word agency means and why am I an agent and how do I represent you and all that good stuff. Get a signature on agency and go ahead and show them what the offer looks like. Here's a blank copy of the offer. When it comes time for us to write an offer, here are the things that we're going to mostly focus on in the offer. It's price and time frame and contingency periods and all these different things. Make sure that they at least have a good general working knowledge of that document and that you've provided them a sample in advance. If you do this, it's just going to be less of an obstacle and there's going to be less fear associated when you actually have to write that offer and ask them to sign it. Particularly if you've never worked with these people before or it's the first time that you're writing an offer and it's just a little bit awkward and a little bit clumsy. Now, the more you can get rid of that unease at that time, the easier it's going to be for you to just transition right into a natural conversation and a question. Now, we've got all the paperwork established. Is this the one you want to go ahead and purchase? Is this the home that you want? Let's go ahead and write up that offer. And of course, number 4, so you got there and you asked the question, let's go ahead and write this offer up. It's your one of a kind, you're excited about it, and they stall. Well, we got to think about it. Oh, yeah, oh my God. So you laid all this groundwork and you're very helpful, informed. You did a survey of all the available properties within their price range. You dialed in on their core needs. You understand their core needs tied to a specific date and time, and they just stop. They just stop. How do you overcome this, and why did they stop? Well, they could have stopped for all kinds of different reasons, but at the end of the day, there's probably some sort of a balance between fear and motivation, and that is, you know, I don't really know what's going to happen. What does this really look like? You know, the homes that you showed us are really nice, and it's not you. It's not you. It's not you, Don. It's me. And so, how do you get these people over the hump? You're going to have to dig a little deeper by probing those core needs based on the time frame that you thought you had all squared away earlier. And here's maybe a great question that you might want to say. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, of the properties that we've seen in your price range and your time frame, and the fact that you wanted to be in the school district and you wanted to close by September, so it's not just your time frame. I'm going back and I'm exploring and I'm reacquainting them with the core need. Why are we standing here? We're standing here because you wanted to move into this location because it's part of this school district, because you want to be settled by September. Okay, these are drop dead dates and they're very significant, but all of a sudden you're going to have to go back and quantify them. Now, do this in a gentle way, for gosh sakes. Just because you're impatient because you want to be done with it doesn't mean they are. It means that they got to think about it. Okay, so they might just have a hard stop, and it might be based on a real thing. At which point you're probably going to get to that core objection right then and there, right? Because they'll finally come clean and say, well, you know, I got a notice the other day and I might be getting laid off and we're really nervous about getting laid off. Okay, well, that's an objection and we can handle that objection. We're going to take care of that in another video. But at least you're going to have a better understanding of, okay, there's a blocker, I need to overcome a blocker. But if there's not, and it's just kind of fear and it's just a little bit irrational, what you want to ask them is a simple question. Bill and Sally Smith, look, if we didn't write an offer on this property today and somebody else came in tomorrow, wrote an offer, and snatched that property away, how would you feel about that? Would you feel a sense of loss if somebody came in and purchased that property? Okay, because the thing is that there's, you know, for all the reasons you like this property, there's other people in the market looking for properties, and they might very well find this property and find themselves in the same moment. If this property were to go to somebody else, would you feel a sense of loss, or do you think that it would be okay, right? So right then and there, you're going to get a really good understanding of what their motivation is. And, you know, some technicians would call this it's the takeaway close. It's not the takeaway close. What you're trying to do is quantify the attachment that this person has based and balanced against any fear that they might be experiencing at that time. Your job as a professional is to guide people over that kind of that hump, that little uncomfortable threshold, just before you ask kind of that closing question. Now, if they say something like, well, yeah, you know what, I don't want to lose out. Okay, clear buying signal. Well, if you don't want to lose out, really the only way for us to deal with this correctly is to go ahead and write an offer. Would you like to go ahead and do that now, right? Be direct, be compassionate, but don't leave any ambiguity. Let these people understand that if you wait, you will lose, because things are based on time and opportunity. If they have to go home and think about it, that's fine. Sometimes they just have to go home and think about it. Just let them know that the property is at risk until they can secure it with a contract. As always, we covered a lot in this segment, and if you're struggling with any part of any of the material that I covered with regard to showing property, or talking to your buyer, or preparing your buyer to show property, or the sort of dialogue that I kind of walked through in this video, for goodness sakes, I'd love to help you with it. Please go and book 15 minutes on my calendar. There's no cost or obligation. I look forward to helping you in any way that I can.